Welcome to Musings Television, where your host, Fabian, invites you to bloom with a new perspective that will encourage, uplift, and inspire. Here he is with today's musings.
Hey, I'm back. So, welcome to Musings Television. Ask no maybe. I've been away for some time. But yeah, we're back. I'm here. Journeying through the pandemic, as we all are. And on Friday, I was in a particular mood for a while as the thought came home to me how limiting this whole period of the pandemic has been. A lot of limitations have been imposed on us, aimed at curbing the spread of the virus, primarily. Um, as we speak now in Jamaica, where I am, the numbers have been increasing because of the Delta variant of the COVID-19 SARS virus. Our hospitals are under pressure. And so, in the last couple of weeks, we have been subject to lockdowns that runs from a Saturday evening to a Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. So lots of restrictions and limitations. There's limitation on gathering, limitation on going to church, you name it, there are limitations. And so, coupled with that, a friend of mine took a decision that he was going abroad to study. And as such, it was something that he was back and forth over because of not being where he wanted to be in his career, as well as wanted to pursue further studies. And so he decided that, hey, he's going to apply for school overseas and, launch out into the deep, for want of a better word. And it just dawned on me that in this period, we are truly living in a time, you can say a season even, of great limitations being imposed on us due to the pandemic. And it didn't just stop there, but the thinking went beyond the pandemic. Why confine it to the pandemic? So you and I need to think, even through this period of being limited in our movement because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we also need to reflect on what other limitations we have imposed on ourselves that prevent us from self-actualizing in a sense. So what are those limitations that we put on ourselves that stifle our growth, inhibit our potential, and stem possibilities that could be? So today we want to reflect on limitation and limiting tendencies. And we want to use this period of COVID, the example of COVID and the limitations that has been imposed on us as a means of stemming the spread and keeping things under control, as a impetus to spur us in our personal lives to take stock of those limitations that we have, that no one else has imposed on us, essentially, but that we have imposed on ourselves, and take steps to remedy them so that we can move beyond those limitations and put plans into action, plans that will assist us to realize our fullest, truest potential, even beyond the pandemic, because we know that the pandemic won't last forever, right? It's like we are going through a storm. And even in the midst of the pandemic, for us in Jamaica, we had the storm, was it Ida? I don't remember if it was Ida. Anyway, one of them that passed about 2 weeks ago, roughly, in the midst of the pandemic, and that didn't last forever. It came, it drenched us in rain, it drenched us in wind. Some homes and many persons in different areas would have been flooded out. Trees toppled, landslides, etc. But eventually it passed, and the sun came out shining beautifully again to dry up or that moisture that was left with us. So in the same breath and in the same instance, as we journey through this pandemic, which we know won't last forever, we also need now, using the example of COVID and the limitations that would have been imposed on us by the authorities as a means of protecting our own safety and the safety of the collective, we need to take stock of our personal experience to examine and make a list of those limiting tendencies that we have and strategize in order to get us out of those limiting tendencies towards being successful. Successful as you and I would define whatever success is to us. So it has been resting on my mind in a bit since I voiced that thought on my social media statuses, and I thought it was an indication that I needed to explore this and could explore this further in a video for myself and for you, my subscribers and subscribers to come who will watch this. So I did a little research, as it were, and I came across a Forbes article entitled Successful People, the 8 Self-Limiting Behaviors They Avoid. See it here? It was written by Kathy Caprino, and it was a Forbes magazine publication, right? And it explores 8 self-limiting behaviors that successful people avoid that we can use to explore further and try to identify if any of these apply to us, and then strategize as to how we're going to get ourselves out of these self-limiting behaviors towards a new dawn in which we are inspired to move to action, in which we uplift ourselves, in which we encourage ourselves, and in which we are going to do what my t-shirt here says from my brand Affirmation Couture. It says, push through the doubt, right? Push through the doubt. Your success awaits you on the other side. So the first self-limiting behavior that successful people avoid, according to Ms. Caprino in her article on the 8 self-limiting behaviors of that successful people avoid, is engaging in below the line thinking. And she says here, below the line thinking refers to a particular mindset that shapes how you view the world in a limiting way. It leads to your behavior to your believing rather, that what's happening to you is outside your control and is everyone else's fault. The economy, your industry, your boss, your spouse. Below the line thinking says, it is not fair what is happening, and I don't have what it takes to overcome these challenges. I didn't expect that this would happen, and I can't handle it. Above the line thinking, however, she says, on the other hand, says, I clearly see the obstacles ahead, and I'm addressing them with open eyes. So which are you? Are you the one that, in a sense, is like the wolf who's crying foul? Because all these things are happening to you and you don't know why, and you don't know how to address them? Or do you take these things that happen to you as possibly signs and indications, an opportunity for improvement, an opportunity to overcome them, to make good out of a bad situation, right? And it says, if I fail, I'll still wake up tomorrow exactly who I am and will have learned something critical. That is the person who accepts the things that are happening and seeks to spin them in a positive light, because they are accountable for their life. So the accountability comes in as being important, and I suppose that's one of the main takeaway from this particular one, in terms of being, whether you are seen below the line or thinking below the line or above the line. Are you accountable to yourself, which is the first person that you have to be accountable to? You're not only accountable for yourself, you have to be accountable to yourself. So those things that are happening around you and happening to you, how do you view them? Are you self-limiting in your view, or are you thinking above the line? What comes next? This is happening to me now. How can I overcome it? What steps do I need to take to move beyond and through it? What steps can I take to push through this to being successful on the other side? So that's one. The second self-limiting behavior that it says that successful people avoid is that of making fantastical wishful thinking for action. And she says here, successful professionals pursue outcomes that flow organically from their current actions. Unsuccessful individuals attach to fantasies that may relieve them momentarily of their situational pain, but have no basis in reality. Some time ago, I did a reflection, I think it was a vlog, while I was driving to work, on, if I'm certainly correct, it had to do with wishful thinking. And this is essentially what I'm getting from this. Mistaking fantastical wishful thinking for action. So you wish something could be, but you're essentially not taking any action for it to become what it is that you wish for. Make sense? So you can't just wish for something to be. What it means, and that I think is also stemming from the first point that the successful behaviors, self-limiting behaviors that successful people avoid, which is below the line thinking. You have to think above the line. You can't be entertaining wishful thinking. If you wish something and you truly want it to become a reality, then you have to take the steps for it to become the reality that you are wishing that would obtain. In a sense, think of it this way. Even in the pandemic, as we're going through the pandemic, in Jamaica, for example, recently the hospitals, a lot of our hospitals, if not all of them, had a severe challenge in oxygen, which is one of the key ingredients to help patients who are suffering from the SARS COVID Delta variant, because we know that the virus really impacts the lungs. So if you think about breathing now, you and I are breathing in oxygen as we speak now, which is a requirement for us to be alive. Can we wish that we could breathe in oxygen and still exist in this realm? I don't think so. Our lungs, which are functioning healthy, if it's not impacted by any disease, we have to take that breath. We have to take that breath of life that helps to sustain us. So in the same breath that it is us, the capability that we have to breathe, to take that breath, that is beyond something that we can entertain as being wishful. We have to actualize, we have to take action, we have to breathe in, we have to inhale and fill our lungs with that breath of life. It is the same thing with anything that we are going to aspire to. If we have a dream of becoming something, of pursuing something, it can't just be, Lord, I wish me did this, I wish me did that. Because ultimately nobody's going to come to you, take you, and bring you into that wish where it is already achieved. You have to take yourself up and work towards realizing that wish that you have. So it says here, it's critical to take bold action towards your vision in order to create success. So it can't be wishful. Nobody who is successful, one could argue, just sits down and say, I wish I was successful. They have to get up and put grease elbows to the wheels, right? And work towards the success that they are envisioning. The third self-limiting behavior that successful people avoid Miss Caprino says, is remaining powerless. Well, I suppose avoid remaining powerless or speechless. And she says here, successful people are in touch with their power and are not afraid to use it and express it. They advocate and negotiate strongly for themselves and for others, and for what they care about, and don't shy away from articulating just how they stand apart from the competition. They know how they contribute uniquely and the value they bring to the table. In addition, they don't wait to bring up concerns. They tackle challenges head on, speaking about them openly, with calm, poise, and grace. They don't hide from their problems, and they don't perceive themselves as hapless victims. So sometimes people often use the phrase that one could be a victim of circumstance. And that also goes back to the first point of your below the line thinking, right? Are you going to let yourself fall in that trap of thinking that you are just a helpless victim, you can't help yourself? Mind you, there are persons in society who are far less enabled in one way or another. It could be education, whether it be resources, etc. That makes it more challenging or more of an obstacle to not fall in this mindset of being a hapless victim. But if you're not one who is captured in that category of persons, and you are one who is educated, you are able to think logically for yourself, you have access to resources, whether it be through family, friends, financial institutions, because you might have assets that you can leverage to make your dreams a reality, then you can't accede your power to this mentality that you're a hapless victim. The what do you call now? The odds may be stacked against you, but you don't have to buy into the odds being stacked against you. You have to muster up that courage to know that you have a voice and you have the power, and you can't relinquish that power to anybody or anything, right? Because you are going to know that with that power, you can overcome. You can strategize to overcome those challenges and not fall into being or playing the hapless victim. The fourth, and listen to this one very well, the fourth self-limiting behavior that successful people avoid is putting off investing in themselves, right? Putting off investing in themselves. So you and I can't afford to be in a position where we don't invest in ourselves. Because outside of when we were growing up, for example, when we were babies, young adults, teenagers, and we could rely on our parents, for example, to support us. Once you become an adult and you have to stand on your own 2 feet, then you recognize and you will fully appreciate that you really have to invest in yourself. Your successes, or the successes that possibly lie ahead of you, are not just going to come because somebody else is going to, at all times, see the need to invest in you. For many of us, especially those of us who might not come from an affluent background, where our parents have resources that are unlimited, that can probably send us even universities, etc., and we have to try and fend for ourselves, possibly after we have exited high school, then we can fully appreciate the need to invest in ourselves, because it was investing in ourselves, even speaking for myself personally, that I was able to be where I am today. It is investing in ourselves why why, or in myself in this instance as an example, why have I decided that I would start a YouTube channel. It is invested in myself and my future that I decided that I was going to create this brand, Affirmation Couture, which I'm wearing here with my push affirmation in a sense. It was in investing in myself and also listening to or heeding to certain encouragement of others that I decided that I would self-publish a book through Kindle Direct Publishing entitled Musings of the Mind, Prose to Encourage, Inspire, and Uplift, which is the inspiration for having coming on YouTube. So that is all part and parcel of my investing in myself. And I'm sure that you, as you think about it, can think of ways that you would have invested in yourself, whether it be your education, you went to school, you worked, you sent yourself to university, through undergrad, probably graduate school also. And there are many other myriads of ways that you might have invested in yourself. So we who invest in ourselves know the value of that. And as we live in this through this pandemic, and we recognize that the world of work is changing, and that we have to also retool to meet the demands of the future in a post-COVID world, where a lot of businesses are now, if they haven't already done so, seeking to transition online and engage in more digital services so that they can reach their customers. Then we recognize that there is indeed a need for us to invest in ourselves. So yes, we recognize the need that we have to invest in ourselves, right? Let me read what it says here. Putting off investing in themselves. It says, I see this behavior over and over in those who feel thwarted and unsuccessful. They are incredibly reluctant to invest time, money, and energy in themselves and their own growth, right? So it goes back to what I was saying before. You will reach a point in your life when investing in yourself is going to become your responsibility. Nobody else is going to take it upon themselves to invest in you, in a sense, unless you are investing in yourself. So it all begins and starts with you, right? You have to take that step. They are comfortable only when putting other people's needs ahead of their own. They'll make any excuse for why no is not the time to invest in themselves or commit to change. They feel guilt, shame, and anxiety over claiming I'm worth this. Successful people don't wait. They spend money, time, and effort on their own growth because they know without doubt it will pay off for themselves and everyone around them, right? So you have to believe in yourself. Self-confidence, right? To paraphrase our first national hero, Marcus Garvey, Jamaica's first national hero, he said something to the extent that without confidence in self, you have already lost the race. So you have to be confident in yourself, and it's that confidence in yourself and your own ability that will also allow you to take the steps necessary to invest in yourself, to bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. This, again, I go back to this affirmation, as it were, from Affirmation Couture, which I trust you will support. You can find us at affirmationcouture.com, and you'll find this or similar print to this on t-shirts, as well as other apparel, but that's another side promo, if you were. So yes, you have to push through the doubt. Oftentimes it is this doubt in our own ability to do things that prevents us too from investing in ourselves, because we allow doubt to take residence in our mind, and we don't take steps necessary to just push, to try and push towards our success on the other side. Our success is awaiting us on the other side, but we have to do that pushing through the doubt, pushing by investing in ourselves, spending that time, money, and energy in building ourselves so that we can, in the end, in the ultimate end, that building will eventually pay off, as the writer says here. We know without doubt it will pay off for themselves and everyone around them. And again, you're doing it for yourself as much as you're doing it for the persons around you, your family, your friends, whomever will benefit, your benefactors at the end of the day. If you don't invest in yourself truly now, look at it. You won't have anything to give anybody. You probably even hardly have anything to give yourself to begin with. The things that you would be able to achieve, and these are probably largely material, especially things that money can't buy. We know we can't live without money. It's just the plain truth of the world that we live in. Money runs the world, as they say. You need cash to care. You need cash to care for yourself. You need cash to care for those around you. And it is investing in yourself that will likely pay you the largest dividend. So if you're not yet doing so, do your inventory, and based on what it is that you wish that you would want to achieve or realize, then you need to begin to strategize to invest in yourself, to see how you need, what are the things that you need to do, the steps that you need to take to bring you beyond just a wish, but to take you into actionable measures that will see you realizing that thing that you have been wishing for, right? So, as we move along, I think we're at the fifth now, if not the sixth. The sixth one is resisting change. One of the things that successful people avoid. And it says here, successful people don't break themselves against what is or drown in the changing tides. They go with the flow, they follow the trends and embrace them. They are flexible. So flexible. You have to be flexible. In particular, in this period of COVID, you can't be inflexible. You have to be fluid and nimble, as the writer tells us about successful people. They react to what's in front of them and improvise deftly. Those who are unsuccessful bemoan what is appearing before them and stay stuck in the past or in what they expected, complaining about how life is not what it should be and why what is feels so wrong. So COVID is a prime example of this, and the persons who will be successful throughout this period of COVID are those who are not resistant to change. So for example, if you have a business and you weren't doing business digitally, with everything that is happening with COVID, the shutdowns, etc., you are going to lose customers, you're going to lose revenue, and eventually you could very well go belly up if you are not taking measures to adapt to the opportunity, really, to go digitally and serve your customers digitally. You're going to basically become extinct in this period. So you have to be resilient, you have to be adaptable. And this particular point reminds me of something of an entry that I have in my book, Musings of the Mind, Prose to Encourage, Inspire, and Uplift, entitled Adapt to Adopt. And it reads, change is the only constant in life. You either change with and like the seasons, or go out with one of them as they make their exit. And while the seasons are perennial and return in their cycle, note that the season which has closed will never have a second coming. It would have evolved. Hence, remaining stagnant is not an option. Winters come colder, summers come hotter, springs may not spring, nor autumn blooms as they did in their last cycle. We must adapt to adopt, change as it comes, when it comes. So, word to the wise, if you want to be successful, and to avoid the limitation of being unsuccessful, you really have to be adaptable. You can't be resistant to change, because if you're resistant to change, it means that if you are just want to do things as you have always done them, that when things change, and for example, our customers, if you're in a business, for example, or we work in an industry, because most of us who are employed serve customers. Our customers change. The baby boomers and generation, what is it now? Z, X, or Y, wherever we are along that spectrum, do things totally differently. So while, for example, the baby boomers now would more have a challenge going digitally, you find that the generations X or Z's don't have that challenge, because that's where they live, that's where that's where they thrive, in a social digital world. So if you are a business that wants to be 100 years old, or exist 100 years from now, that the impetus to change will have to be in the DNA of the company, in as much as it needs to be in your DNA, if you are going to be able to survive the changing tides that life often throws at us, right? So, as we wind down on the 8 self-limiting behaviors that successful people avoid, the next one says honoring other people's priorities over their own. And it says here, successful people know what matters most to them. Their priorities, values, concerns, and their mission and purpose. They don't float aimlessly on a sea of possibility. They are masters of their own ship and know where they want to head and make bold moves in the direction of their dreams. To do this, they are very clear about their top priorities in life and work, and won't be waylaid by the priorities and values of others. So essentially, I think what is it saying is that you must have a sense of self, right? You must have a sense of what it is that you want, what it is that your vision is, and how you're going to achieve it. So while the strategies that you might implement to arrive at your vision will need to change from time to time, depending on the various circumstances, the vision ultimately would remain. And if you even have to tweak the vision, it shouldn't be that it is so tweaked that you are all over the place. It must be along that same trajectory, using tactics and strategies that will align with where it is that your vision wants to go. So if it is that you find yourselves in a position, or where your vision is not clear, then you need to clarify that, so that it does not become subject to the whims and fancies of other people's opinions or interventions, especially when they're not aligning with what it is that you have in mind as your vision. Doubting themselves and their instincts. So this is one thing that successful people avoid. Doubting themselves and their instincts. Now, I'm sure many of you like myself, from time to time, entertain the whole doubt matter, quite frankly. Before I decided, or even after I decided that I would have pursued this project, of publishing what have become my thoughts that I would normally publish or just share via my statuses. And in the midst of the pandemic too, I think I shared something that somebody said, and I have had it before said to me that I should write a book. And for some reason during the pandemic in last year, it just dawned on me, and I began to go through my social media, Facebook in particular, because that's where most of the statuses would have been published anyway. And I began to go over them, and I began to essentially compile them in a Word document that would become my manuscript. And here it is. I followed through, even between doubt, because even in the process I entertained doubt. But I don't believe that it's a case where you can't have instances of doubt. But that doubt should not have prevented me from reaching to this point where it is actually published. So I think what, if anything, that we have to do when we are on a journey towards moving beyond wishful thinking to get things done based on certain visions or objectives that we have set for ourselves, is that the doubt will come, but you have to keep just pushing through the doubt. Push through the doubt. Your success awaits you on the other side. Push through the doubt. Do not allow yourself to reside in the land of doubt. The doubt will be there, but you have to push through without having to get into anything religious per se. As I said, that the whole parable of the wheat and the weed came to mind, and there's an entry in here that speaks to that too, where the weed didn't prevent the wheat from maturing and bearing its fruit. Similarly, the doubt should not prevent you and I from maturing and bearing that fruit, whatever the fruit is that we wish to bear. Don't allow doubt to stop us. We don't make doubt stop we. You see me? We must push through the doubt. If we don't push through the doubt, how else are we going to know whether or not our success is awaiting us on the other side? How are we going to know? In anything in life. Life is full of uncertainties. That's just it. We have to push. If we're going to accomplish anything, we have to take steps to make it a reality. Nobody's going to come and give us nothing, handout, unless you're going into a line where charity work is being done and you're in that position. But if you're not in that position, then you have to push. The other one, it says that tendency that successful people avoid is searching for handouts and easy answers. Right? It reads here on this note, which is the last one. It says, I can often tell from the first contact I have with someone if they'll be likely to succeed in their new entrepreneurial venture or career or not. How? By the nature of their expectations and how they set out to fulfill them. And she gives an example here. If a complete stranger reaches out to me expecting free help without considering what he or she may offer in return, it's a bad sign. Let's say he or she asks for something like this. I'm launching my new business and wondered if you can give me some advice. I can't pay you because I am a startup, but I hope you can help me anyway. She says, from this email, I know he or she is not ready to make it happen in their own business. Why? Because successful professionals and those destined to be wouldn't consider asking for help in this way. Instead, they would, one, understand that they have something important and valuable to offer in any situation. Two, are willing and happy to share or barter that in return for what they want. And 3, they treat others exactly as they would like to be treated. Successful professionals are respectful, resourceful, curious, competent, tenacious, and they figure out how to get the help they need without asking for handouts. So, give and you shall receive is the principle here, it seems. Right? If you recognize that somebody else has value that you would wish to benefit from, then you have to count the cost involved, I guess, is what this one is saying. You can't expect to obtain value freely, because when you think of it, really, that the value that that person might have to give is very likely how that person earns their living. And if they give it freely, then how do they eat? So you have to count the cost involved, and don't expect to just get things free without having to pay for them, because really and truly nothing is free. The Christian will tell you that it's only salvation free, but I would argue that not even salvation is free, because to obtain salvation you have to give up something. There's a particular way that you have to conduct yourself and live your life that would, in a sense, deprive you of doing things that you would otherwise wish, well, probably you wouldn't wish to do them, but you would see other people doing and might be inclined to partake in that obtaining salvation would not necessarily allow you to partake in. Of course, let us not mention those who might hide and lick. It's for another time, but it's life anyway. Forgiveness, grace and mercy. Forgiveness abounds. That wasn't a confession, but anyway. But anyway, I trust that we now will have been explored the 8 self-limiting behaviors that successful people avoid, that we will be able to internalize them. We will be able to internalize them and take the steps necessary to avoid these self-limiting behaviors to a point where we are, in fact, pushing through the doubt, pushing through these 8 self-limiting behaviors, which are engaging in below the line thinking, making fantastical wishful thinking for action, remaining powerless and speechless, 3, 4, putting off investing in yourself, 5, resisting change, 6, honoring other people's priorities over your own, 7, doubting yourself and your instincts, and 8, searching for handouts and easy answers. So, as we continue to journey through the pandemic, which has imposed great limitations on us, we can't go party for those of us who party. We can't go hang out in large gatherings in restaurants, for example, to have a great meal with friends or family. Certain celebrations, weddings, for example, are down to a minimal. Some of these things have benefits for us too, because the amount of money we normally spend on, for example, weddings or an early party to celebrate anything, some of that can be saved. And indeed, it is time for it to be saved in a period where persons are starting a new life together, and in a period of health crisis. Essentially, you might need those resources to be redeployed elsewhere, or to increase your store for this difficult period. So, yeah, COVID has imposed lots of limitations on us. But as we go through this period where we are being limited, let us take the time to reflect on those limiting behaviors that we are engaged in. Those limiting behaviors that prevent us from being successful. And let us take steps to address them. Let us see how we can position ourselves, even in this period of COVID and its limitations, to take advantage of the opportunities that exist, especially in the digital realm at this point in time, that will see us being able to become successful in different areas of our lives as we make the commitment to overcome our self-limiting behaviors. I trust that this expose on self-limiting behaviors and the limitations, using the limitations of COVID as a backdrop to explore these from a personal perspective, would have offered you some encouragement to take stock, some inspiration to move forward in overcoming these self-limiting behaviors, and some upliftment that will result in your overall successes as you move forward. So, thank you for having watched this episode of Musings of the Mind on Musings Television. I look forward to doing this again more on a sustained basis. So let me know what your thoughts are about our presentation today, and you can also share what, if anything, you would like me to look at, any other topic, subject matter that you might have in mind that is worthy of being explored. Leave them in the comments. Remember, my book is out, Musings of the Mind, Prose to Encourage, Inspire, and Uplift. It can be purchased through Amazon.com, or you can send me an email to affirmationcouture@outlook.com if you're interested in purchasing a copy. And of course, please check out affirmationcouture.com on the digital highway, where you can purchase your apparel wear, which seeks to encourage, inspire, and uplift through words of affirmation printed to garments. Thank you, and continue to keep safe until our next episode of Musings of the Mind, where we will seek to offer encouragement, inspiration, and upliftment.
There you have it, this week's Musings. We hope you found it encouraging, inspiring, and uplifting. Let Fabian know your thoughts by leaving a comment on this video. Do spread the word and invite others to subscribe to Musings Television. Until next week, may your hearts remain ever joyful.